Mark Gator Rogowski was born on the 10th of August 1966 in Brooklyn, New York. When he was just 3 years old, his parents divorced and he moved with his mother and brother to San Diego, California, a city that would one day crown him a superstar and later expose his darkest side. As a lonely kid, Mark found his escape in skateboarding, rolling through empty streets, chasing freedom on four wheels. But his early years were filled with insecurity. Surrounded by wealthy kids flashing expensive surfboards and new gear, Mark was the outsider, the poor boy on a cheap board trying to fit in. So he turned his isolation into obsession. Every trick, every fall, every scar made him better, faster, unstoppable. And by age 14, he was a professional skater earning over $100,000 a year, adored by millions. But what happens when a boy who craves acceptance gets too much of it too fast? By the early 1980s, Mark Gator was everywhere on TV, in magazines, plastered across skate shops around the world. He wasn't just a skater, he was a rock star on wheels, pulling off gravity-defying moves that left crowds gasping. One of his inventions, the Gator Air, cemented his name in skateboarding history. But fame is a dangerous fuel. Mark admitted that skating was his way of venting his rage, saying, "Instead of hitting someone, I'd take it out on the ramp." His aggression made him a legend and a ticking time bomb. By 1987, during a skate tour, Gator met Brandy McLean, a 17-year-old model who became his everything, his muse, his partner, and eventually his obsession. They partied hard, traveled the world, and lived fast. But behind the camera flashes, something darker was brewing. By the late 1980s, the world of skateboarding had changed. Word trams, Gator's kingdom were fading. A new trend, street skating, was taking over. Gator's fame began to fade. His sponsors left and fans moved on to newer stars. The man who once ruled the sport now felt irrelevant. In October 1989, during a party night in Germany, drunk and reckless, Mark tried to jump from a second-story window with his skateboard, a stunt that nearly killed him. He landed on a barbed wire fence, mutilating his face and neck. After several surgeries, he emerged, claiming he'd found God. Inspired by another born-again skater, Mark started preaching Christianity on beaches. But while he claimed to be saved, those closest to him, especially Brandy, said something inside him had snapped. He was no longer the man she loved. He was cold, unpredictable, and frightening. When Brandy finally decided to leave him, Mark's world collapsed. He began calling her obsessively, leaving threatening voicemails and stalking her. One night, her room was broken into, every gift from Mark stolen. She knew who had done it, but there was no proof. In one terrifying encounter, Mark took Brandy on a drive through a deserted road, ranting and threatening to leave her where no one would find her. She cried, begged him to stop, and somehow he did. But she knew then that she had to disappear. Brandy fled to New York, never telling anyone where she was going. And then, just weeks later, Jessica Bergsten, Brandy's best friend, tall, blonde, full of life, came to visit San Diego. She called Mark, her old friend, asking him to show her the city. He agreed. That decision sealed her fate. On the 20th of March 1991, Mark took Jessica out for lunch, then brought her to his apartment for movies and wine. But when she tried to leave, something snapped inside him. He struck her 3 times in the head with a steering wheel lock, hard enough to drop her instantly. He handcuffed her, dragged her upstairs, and for hours inflicted unimaginable horror. Jessica pleaded, screamed, begged for her life. Desperate to silence her, he shoved a surfboard bag into her mouth, suffocating her. When the silence fell, Mark realized what he had done. He stuffed her body and clothes into his car trunk, drove 2 hours into the desert near Carlsbad, and buried her in a shallow grave. Then, as if nothing had happened, he returned home and cleaned the blood off his carpet. Jessica's body would remain unidentified for weeks. And Mark? He kept preaching about God. Weeks later, while preaching at a beach with his religious mentor, Augie Constantino, Mark noticed a missing persons flyer, Jessica's face staring back at him. Augie joked that the missing girl had nothing to worry about now, but Mark froze pale, shaking, unable to speak. Days later, Mark broke down at Augie's house, weeping uncontrollably, calling himself Judas Iscariot. He prayed for hours, then confessed everything. Augie took him to the police, where officers were stunned. They didn't even know a murder had happened yet. Mark led them to Jessica's grave, describing every detail. His confession shocked the world. The skateboarding hero, the smiling face on magazine covers, had turned out to be a monster. Overnight, the name Gator became synonymous with evil. In 1992, Mark Gator Rogowski stood before the court. He pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty, claiming that he'd been at war with himself, haunted by demons he couldn't control. He said God had forgiven him, but that he couldn't forgive himself. Jessica's father screamed from the audience he would never forgive, never forget. The judge sentenced Mark to 25 years to life. Skateboarding, once a symbol of rebellion and freedom, suddenly became stained by violence and shame. Inside prison, Mark became a model inmate, still preaching faith, but the world outside had moved on. 30 years later, in 2022, parole was granted. The man once adored by millions may soon walk free. But the question remains, can a man who buried his sins in the desert ever be truly redeemed? Or is Mark Gator Rogowski forever the boy who wanted to belong and lost his soul trying?